Hey guys, today I'm out near Detroit taking a look at the 2025 Ford Explorer. This model has been refreshed for this model year with new tech on the inside, more standard feature content, and sharper looks on the outside. But it's competing in arguably the toughest segment in North America because there are so many different three-row SUVs to choose from. On the small side, we have things like the Sorento, which recently got a refresh. On the big side, we have the new Grand Highlander, and of course, the three big new SUVs from General Motors. The Explorer, it's kind of between these two vehicles in size and format, but it has a lot going on for it. Most notably, the rear-wheel drive driving dynamics. But we should talk about the design first. Coming in for a closer look up front, you'll notice we get a new grille design. This is sort of like a multi-head razor kind of thing going on here. Most of it is actually blacked off or blanked off because not all that cooling is required. So for aero reasons, we actually have large blanked off sections of that grille. We have new LED headlights. These are full LEDs with LED daytime running lamps, LED turn signals, and this model has LED fog lights below. The trim we're looking at today is the Platinum trim along with the ST trim. This is effectively the top-end Ford Explorer. When comparably equipped, ST and Platinum are basically the same price, but there are a few differences. The 3-liter turbo that we're going to talk about in a bit is optional in the Platinum, so not all Platinum models are going to have the quad exhaust tips that you'll find on some of the models. We spent most of our day in the 3-liter turbo model, but we are going to be driving this 2.3-liter turbo in just a bit. The taillights, those are also new for 2025, and they have a bit more of a wraparound design. Not a complete light pipe from one side to the other. You can see that it kind of breaks off there. Then we get Explorer spelled out in this black tinted section, and then it continues on the other side. We have red LED turn signals and LED backup lights as well. One nice touch with the Explorer is that it has a really upright design. So even though the hatch is a little bit raked there, we have a pretty horizontal roofline. Lots of third row headroom going on back there as well. Although obviously versus some of the new larger entries in this segment, you're not going to find as much room on the inside. And versus a lot of the front wheel drive competition, you're not going to find as much efficiency as far as the packaging goes. So exterior size versus interior size. And that's because of what's going on under the hood. This is one of the few rear-wheel drive options in this segment. You can see that the engine starts right about here and actually continues all the way back there towards the front of the dashboard. That's because they needed enough room under this hood to also accommodate the 3-liter twin-turbo V6. This engine produces 300 horsepower, the V6 produces 400 horsepower. Both are mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. The transmission is a big advantage to a vehicle like the Explorer because rear-wheel drive transmissions can generally handle more power than front-wheel drive transmissions. And that's why we find 400 horsepower under this hood, for instance, and only 365 horsepower or so in an Acura MDX Type S. So notably more power out of this engine, and of course another turbo as well. Fuel economy, that is the one downside, because big news for 2025, the hybrid no longer exists. Unless you're a police department and you're buying a police Ford Explorer, then you can still get the old hybrid system. Ford hasn't said too much about exactly why it's been removed, but it appears that they're refocusing production on the F-150 hybrid, which uses basically the same transmission, very similar motor, etc. And Ford has been having troubles building enough motors for all of the vehicles they might want to hybridize. I would love, however, to see a 35-mile-per-gallon hybrid. Now for the other big difference, let's take a look inside. The seat designs haven't changed, but the materials and the color palette have. Since we're in the Platinum trim, of course, we have leather upholstery, little Platinum logo there just below the headrest. Travis is hanging out back there in the rear seat. You can see he does have a pretty decent amount of headroom, and this model, of course, has the big panoramic moonroof right there. But back to the seats, depending on the seat color, you may get a perforated stitched quilted insert right up here on the top, but these seats are heated and ventilated, and they have the massage function as well. Now, one word of caution, the massage function is a little on the loud side, so you will definitely hear the air compressor going as it's inflating and deflating the bolsters in the seats. The interior in this model is sort of a plum wine color, I guess you might say. It's on the dark side of things, but I really like this interior color the best in this model. Moving over to the door panels, lots of soft touch materials, redesigned upper sections of the doors there, and a completely redesigned dashboard. Let's just pan across so you can take in the whole design together, then we'll take a look at the various components. The biggest thing you're probably going to notice is this section right over here on the passenger side, where we now have a fabric-coated soundbar. I think the fabric coating really dresses up the interior. You can see it adds a lot of extra texture to the interior, and they've also redone the material choices here. So we have Explorer spelled out there in that little bar. the imitation wood trim there, more of that stitched material in the same plum color as the seats. It's really well done. This model has the optional B&O audio system, and again, there are actual speakers in there. It is actually a sound bar. At the bottom of that, we have the same glove compartment, basically as before. I think you could fit an 11-inch tablet computer inside. The big change, though, happens right here in the middle, where the car is now natively running Google's Android Automotive operating system. This is not Android Auto. It does still support that, as of course it supports full screen Apple CarPlay there. You can expand that out or shrink it down. So you can do smartphone projection, or you can run a lot of native apps right here in the system if you'd rather do that. So obviously the Google mapping interface is here with the built-in traffic. You know, you can voice command it. All that's available there just as you would expect in the Google mapping interface. But if you want to download Waze and run it natively on here, you can do that. YouTube, WebEx, you can even download games, because unlike some implementations of the Google Automotive operating system, this seems to have a significantly faster GPU and CPU than, say, we find in the average Volvo running the Google Automotive operating system. So you may not be able to run the same sort of games on those systems as you can here. It also supports streaming video with WebEx and streaming video with YouTube, etc. Those are really cool touches. But again, smartphone integration is still here, so if you'd rather do that, that is available as well. They've really spent a lot of time working on the animations and transitions in the system, and when you turn on the car, the system boots up significantly faster than Forward Sync. Also, a really big deal is if I go over here to, for instance, the Apple Maps system, and then I just, so let's search for gas stations nearby. Let's go ahead and get directions there. Go do that. Then you will notice if I move over here to the instrument cluster, I can actually get a map view, select the option from that, and this map is actually being driven by my smartphone. But it's not just two-screen smartphone projection. We can actually also get mapping from the built-in Google Maps. So depending on how you want to route, you will always get a full screen map display there if you want to. Then we have the addition of Ford's Blue Cruise hands-free driving assistance system, and you'll find this in every trim except for the base active trim. This is that driver attention monitoring portion there. You'll notice that unlike Super Cruise, we don't have any sort of illuminated section on the steering wheel, and that's part of why this big full screen LCD cluster is standard. Actually, both of these screens are going to be found in every model. On the downside, no head-up display. That's one feature that we don't see in here. The steering wheel, that's basically the same as far as the controls as before. So same sort of cruise control controls over there, infotainment and instrument cluster controls right over there, with a redesigned airbag in the middle, but the functionality, it's basically the same as before. It's also powered and memory linked, which is a nice touch. Moving back to the center console, big air vents happen there, some touch and physical buttons here. Basically, you push on this button bank, it actually moves, and then it knows what option you've selected by the touch profile there. Then we have a big wireless charging mat. Fortunately, it doesn't have a problem charging smartphones through thicker cases, but you will notice that even though there is another storage slot over here, that is not a Qi wireless charging mat, so it's just a single charging mat system. I do kind of wish that they had given us a secondary mat over there. Also, it's worth noting that even though CarPlay and Android Auto are wireless with this system, there's actually no wired CarPlay. I can unplug that and show you. So I paired wired using the USB port, but it's only wireless for its interaction with CarPlay. The wireless charging mat's not standard. That does strike me as a little bit of an unusual option. So if you are in the base model, you're gonna have to plug in your phone if you don't want your battery to drain. Speaking of that, there is that storage compartment under there where we have the USB ports and 12-volt power port. Black plastic door there. Lots of shiny black plastic in this area. I do think that is going to scratch easily over time. We have the same sort of rotary shifter we've seen for a while in various different Ford models there. Drive mode selector right down here. And when you change the drive modes, we do get some pretty cool animations up here in the instrument cluster. Let's talk about the 3 rows of seats in order, starting obviously with the front seat. We have a decent amount of headroom here, even though we do have the panoramic moonroof. That is optional, it's not standard, but I do have quite a bit of headroom. If I move to the second row, see how this goes. Lots of legroom is happening back here. You can see I have maybe about 6 or 7 inches or so. You would be able to fit a rear-facing child seat back here, I think absolutely no problem. This model has the well-integrated sunshades, nice touch. And the sunroof actually goes to just about the top of my head. The downside to that is that you'll notice less headroom is going on here in the second row if you do choose that option. Also, you should know that for access to the third row, we have a tilt and slide mechanism. Now, clearly in this model, you could also go through the middle because this is the captain's chair equipped model, but you could not leave a child seat latch anchored into place and still tilt and slide, especially the bench seat version forward like that. Now, if I hop back here into the third row, scoot the seat all the way back, then my knees, they're basically touching that seat back there. But, you know, I could actually sit back here if I needed to because how much headroom we have back here. There's a ton of headroom in the back. But also because Ford really slams the seat bottom cushion pretty close to the ground. And that means your legs are definitely going to be up in the air. On the other hand, you can actually put your shoes under the second row seats. I don't know what the bench seat would be like, but in this captain's chair equipped model, you can kind of just stick your feet out there in the aisle. Speaking of captain's chairs, there is no third seat belt back here in the third row. So this is 2 seats here, 2 seats in the middle, 2 seats in the very front. It's a 6-passenger vehicle. You can also get this as a 7-passenger vehicle, but there's no 8-seat version of the Explorer. Behind the third row of seats, if you come in for a look, we get 16.3 cubic feet of cargo capacity back here. Clearly that is below the leaders in this segment, the Grand Highlander and the General Motors triplets, but there is a little bit of additional storage space under this load floor, and the spare tire is in here, not underneath the Explorer, so it's not going to get quite as dirty as some of those ones that are just hanging out underneath the vehicle. The rear seats, you can get a power folding third row model, and the power folding mechanism actually is pretty quick. So especially in the up motion, that's down. This is actually full speed bringing them upright, and then you just manually move those headrests up. So pretty quick as far as the up and down motion goes there. Now, if you want to get your hands on the Ford Explorer, these are going to be on sale right around the time that you're watching this video. Unfortunately, I can't yet talk about how it drives. That's coming soon, so be sure and stay tuned for the full video where we're able to talk about handling, performance, etc. I will tell you though that not a lot has changed on the drivetrain or suspension side, so it's going to be pretty similar to the last few videos we did on the pre-refresh Explorer. Let me know what you think about the new Explorer. Did Ford do enough? Did they not do enough? Should they have brought us a new hybrid system? To be honest, I think that's all that's missing is a 35 mile per gallon hybrid. That is something I would absolutely love to see in the Explorer. In a way, it's pretty logical that Ford has decided to focus on F-150 hybrid production because they've actually made it a no-cost option. So for the same price, you can choose the 5-liter V8, the 3.5-liter V6, or the 3.5-liter V6 hybrid in the F-150. And that's part of why we aren't seeing it in the Explorer, also why in the related Lincoln Aviator, why the plug-in hybrid system has disappeared as well. But again, I think that I would love to see a hybrid in the Explorer lineup. Pricing is going to start right around $41,300 for the base active trim, and that active trim is pretty well equipped for this model year. We get all the standard active safety stuff. We also get heated front row seats, the power hatch. We also get the Ford Digital Experience, which is the big deal for that base model. If you want all-wheel drive, that adds $2,000. You can already configure an Explorer on the Ford website. So if you want to do that, just head over to Ford.com and price things out. If you get carried away with options, the Explorer is not going to be as expensive as a Grand Cherokee L or a Lexus TX or an Acura MDX. I'm not sure how many customers would necessarily cross-shop the very top-end trims of the Grand Cherokee and the Lexus and the Acura with the Explorer, but I will say, again, if you read between the lines, the Explorer is going to be more fun than you would think compared to some of those front-wheel drive based competitors, just due to the nature of this vehicle. So let me know what you think about that down there. Stay tuned for the full video, and of course find us over at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those other social places, and stay tuned for the full video coming up soon. See you later.